What if I told you that growing your business wasn't so much a strategy issue as it was a capacity issue? That there are so many things that are keeping us from showing up because we let it drain our capacity and we aren't able to let go and show up in a way that truly supports our vision, our team, and our business. Well, today Lisa Fabrega came on board, and I will tell you, this interview was so wonderful because we talked about capacity issues and what that means as business owners and what we need to look at to expand our capacity to bring in more wealth in our business, what more success looks like for us. We also talked about boundaries, and even though this is a topic that I know has been around for quite some time, Lisa's insight on boundaries was really, really amazing. And we also talked briefly about her little run-in with someone you may know. Her name's OPRAH, and so much more. So if you are ready to grow your business, if you're ready to really take a deeper dive into maybe what's keeping you from achieving more money and more success, I think you're going to get so much value out of this inspired living interview with Lisa Fabrega. Oh, Lisa, it is so wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being with me today. You know, I love talking about capacity because as women, no matter where you are in life or business, I feel like we're kind of always at capacity in some degree. So we're going to talk about that and money and all the things. But take me back. As a leadership coach, and you've built an incredibly successful business, I always love sharing with the Inspired Living Tribe, like, where did you start? You didn't wake up one day and have this super successful business. So take us back a few notches.
Absolutely. I actually started my business when I was an actor living in New York City, and it was on a whim. It was nothing that I thought I was going to do with my life. And I was working, actors hardly ever have consistent revenue coming in. And so
I
I
do know that, yes.
and so I had a day job, and the day job was getting more and more difficult to be able to leave to go on auditions. And I ran into a friend who told me, "Oh, I've become a coach and I have my own schedule." And I thought, "Oh, let me try that." And little did I know that as soon as I would jump in, I would discover like the love of my life, like, "Oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing."
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I started there, and then I always say that I noticed that a lot of the women who were coming to work with me were these very like high achieving, very successful women with successful careers or businesses. And even though I started my coaching business talking about food, it quickly, like within the first two sessions, we'd be talking about deeper topics, about places they would be reaching thresholds in their capacity to be able to grow and do more. And I began to realize like this is actually my zone of genius. And also in my own experience of growing the business, I noticed how I would hit these little plateaus or these places where I felt like, how can I possibly grow when I already feel like there's so much on my plate? And so
Oh, yeah.
subconsciously I would kind of slow down my growth without realizing it, because I would assume that more growth meant more overwhelm. So that's kind of
Who
how I
can relate to that, right? More
began.
growth. And we do, we kind of self sabotage our continued growth because we do feel like we're at capacity. But Lisa, you said something that I want to go twinkle toe back to. And that was you started talking about food. Now, at Inspired Living, we specialize in helping people like really clarify their message. And I'm always telling people it's going to evolve with you, it's going to grow with you. Like what you start with is not where you end with. So you dropped that, and I had to go back to it for a minute. Tell me a little bit about the evolution from starting with talking about food. Like, where did that start? And then how did you evolve into like the leadership coaching that you're doing today?
I love this question because I agree with you. I think you just have to start somewhere.
Yes.
I was just coaching someone yesterday who they're a couple and they have a business and they can't seem to make money because they keep switching directions because they're afraid of choosing the wrong niche,
Oh my goodness. Do I know this
right?
conversation?
And I'm
Yes.
like, that's why
Yes.
you're not making money. Like you
Yes.
have to take something, you have to just give it your like full try. And so I did. I mean, I started with where I was interested at the time, and it was food, and it was using food to detoxify your body and your thoughts. But then I noticed you have to, I also am a big fan of paying attention to things that feedback that you're getting from clients or from people that are engaging with you, and
Yeah.
also paying attention to things that you find inspiring, things that light you up, things that you love to talk about, things that are almost so easy to talk about that you'd be like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
And that was me just noticing at every step of the way, wow, all of my clients don't want to talk to me about food after our second session. Instead, we're talking about these deeper topics. Or, whenever I talk about this topic, I get a lot of feedback from my community. And when I talk about this topic, it's people don't really respond to it. So
Hmm.
I'm a huge fan of just go forward because there are pieces of information you need that will lead you to the refinement of that message that you can't get if you don't launch yourself forward and commit
Oh
to it
my gosh.
100%.
I'm so grateful we're even starting with this conversation because it is something that hinders so many people because they're jumping from tactic to tactic, message to message, niche to niche. And it's like, just stay in a lane for a minute,
Yes.
get recognized for something. And you said that you posted something the other day that got amazing feedback. I think one of the most amazing things about social media and what we have access to at our fingertips is testing messages and posting something and saying, did that get feedback or did that not resonate? I know we're kind of going off on a tangent. We're not talking about capacity, but I love this because when people look at you or maybe they look at me or someone else that has built a successful brand over time, like, it does evolve, but you have these amazing, amazing opportunities through social media to test messages before you
Yes.
put your stick in the mud. Yes.
I no, I agree with you completely, and it is completely related to your capacity because if you're constantly spreading your energy thin, trying everything instead of because it's essentially you're afraid of failing, right? So you don't want to fully
Yeah.
commit to something because you're afraid it might not fail. But there's literally no way to know that something is going to be foolproof unless you're willing to fail and go fully forward with it. And the amount of energy and capacity reserves that we drain through spreading ourselves thin across so many different topics and not fully committing or focusing on something absolutely challenges and
Yeah.
drains our capacity
That's
100%.
so true. It's spot
Yeah.
on. All right, this is so good. I was reading something and you actually said it's not your strategy, it's your capacity. Let's talk about that because we often feel like, well, I have the strategy. I'm working the strategy. Like, why is it not working for me?
Yes. Oh, I love this question so much. I literally had a conversation last week that is going to illustrate this perfectly. I was speaking to a woman who booked a session to talk about working with me, and she was explaining to me she'd had this business that was in a membership model, let's say, for she'd had it for 2 years. And it was doing pretty well. I mean, she was making money, she was pretty successful at it. But she's like, I feel like crying all the time now. I have almost quit my business twice, and it's only, barely February this year. I am in this membership model where people are paying me a very low amount per month, and I'm having to put in all of this energy to keep people engaged.
Yes.
It doesn't feel even to me. And I said, okay, I get that's how you're feeling. She's like, I just feel like quitting. I feel like if it's going to be more of this as I grow, I just cannot do this. So I asked her, what have you tried before to resolve this problem? And it was strategy. She had hired, and there's nothing wrong with strategy, by the way. We need strategy.
We need strategy. Yes, we
Yes,
do.
it's crucial. But she had only worked on strategy, and these strategists were telling her, "Okay, I think you just need to tweak your membership model or you need to raise your prices." But then she raised her prices and half the people dropped off, and so she was making less money working as much as she was
Yeah.
before. And she's like, and then I also hired a mindset coach separately, like, so she was working on it in layers. Like, first, let me do some strategy. Oh, there's a mindset piece, a one off, and then go back to strategy. And I said, the reason it's not working for you is because there's a capacity issue happening underneath. And her capacity issue was a deeper thing around worthiness. She did not feel she was worthy
Mm.
of receiving. She did not feel she was worthy of having the support she needed on her team so that she wasn't working so much for so little money, so that she had other people doing things for her. And that worthiness thing was attracting people who expected her to work really, really hard and pay her very, very little money. And when I said that to her, she was just like, light bulb moment.
What?
And I said,
Yes.
this is why it's not strategy, because if you go in with this worthiness thing to a strategist, they don't know that worthiness thing is there. So whatever
Right.
strategy they create is literally going to repeat more of this thing where you are working so hard and not receiving in return. So you have to work on both at the same time because whenever I do intensives with clients, for example, the first part is always reserved for what's the deeper blind spot that's going on here. So we have to clear that blind spot. We have to clear that
Yes.
worthiness thing first. And now we can talk about what business model you should have that's
Oh,
going to support the part of you that feels worthy, so you attract
the
worthiness
right
affirming
people.
clients and people. So that's why it's not just your strategy, it's your capacity equally as your strategy.
I have to say, I think mindset and cleaning out those beliefs and all of these things are actually paramount to growing any sort of business, because those subconscious things, like you said, like she probably wasn't aware that it was a worthiness issue,
Yeah.
but who we are is what we attract. So that is just genius, because I know that there's someone listening right now or watching going, "Oh my gosh, she knows me." And how do we work through those things? So it's like mindset and strategy really go together. And
Yes.
so, Lisa, when you work with people, do you work with people in both capacities? I'm assuming, because you just said you had
Yes.
kind of that strategy session with them,
Yeah.
right? That
Well,
breakthrough
that's why I
session.
often
Yeah.
say that capacity work is not the same as mindset work, because mindset work is honestly superficial at best compared to what we need to excavate. Because a lot of mindset work helps you for a time, but then when you grow to another level, the same issue's coming up in a different sort of angle,
So,
right?
talk to me about the difference. What's the difference
Yeah.
between mindset work and, yeah, and capacity work?
Yeah, this is a great question. I love this question because people, a lot of times people confuse mindset work for capacity work. So mindset work is part of capacity work. Of course, we're looking at your mindset, we're looking at your beliefs, but the thing I love about capacity work is that it's a whole picture kind of a thing. So if you have a recurring issue in your business, let's say that you have team members constantly quitting. Let's say that's the issue in your business and you're like, why can't I hire someone who wants to stay, who doesn't need to be micromanaged all the time? Common problem I hear from my clients, right? Okay, great. Well, there's strategic aspects to that. Maybe you don't have the right, what I call structural capacity in your business. Maybe the environment is not fostering people to be loyal or to want to stay because everything's a mess. They don't know where to find things, so it hinders their ability to do their job properly, right? Or maybe you have a worthiness belief that's causing you to attract people who need to be micromanaged because you secretly can't release control. And so you don't want to hire people that you
Oh,
can release
yeah.
control to. So it's really what I love is I always say it's like a fabric with these intermeshed fibers where we need to look at what is being mirrored back by the physical strategic problem that's happening for you about what's deeper. And there are certain, like, I can't look at the mindset thing as a separate thing because you might think the issue is that you don't believe that you could make more money and that's why you're having these team issues, right? But it's not that
Right.
simple because whatever strategic issues are happening are also telling me deeper things that are going on for you that you may not discover if you're only focused on the mindset. So we have to look at what the strategy is reflecting back to you and then what's the deeper thing that's causing the strategic issue
Yeah.
as well. So again,
So good.
capacity work you work on both at the same time. Mindset and strategy you do in silos.
Okay, makes total sense. And
Yeah.
I think as women who are running so fast and high achievers, there are like capacity, does that go hand in hand with boundaries? And how do you help women like set those boundaries? And
Yeah.
you were sharing your story about the bike ride the other day, which I loved. I would love for you to share that as well. Because I think that can be a challenge for a lot of us is how do
100%.
you how do you create and hold those boundaries?
Yes. So actually, boundaries is, I have 6 capacity areas that I've found from working with so many people over the last 12 years. And one of them is boundaries because it is a huge culprit of draining capacity. What I have found is people fall into either one or two camps in terms of what kind of work they need to do on their capacity. And sometimes you're a little bit of both. Camp A is you are a person who easily gets thrown off internally, emotionally, strength wise, energetically wise as a leader by challenges. Okay. So maybe you have a bad launch and you have a meltdown and you're just like traumatized and you don't want to launch again because it was so hard and you're so impacted by it. In that case, your work is to work on strengthening that internal resolve and understanding that you're not that fragile and that you can handle more than you think you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's another camp of women, which is also a capacity issue, which is the opposite that and this is where I used to fall into and I still have to look at, is where we are so strong and we're usually stronger than most people around us and we can handle more than most people around us that we think, oh, it's okay, I'll just take that on. What's one more thing to my plate? Because, my
I don't
team,
know who can relate to that, Lisa. Who can
yes,
relate?
no, it's such an odd thing. um, but no, so that's another area where your work is actually to expand your capacity and your container to be able to grow to your next level. You actually have to start learning to have better boundaries around what you're putting on your plate. And it's not just boundaries with other people, it's boundaries with yourself, right?
Talk to me about that. What does that mean?
So boundaries with yourself are, I know I have this habit or this tendency to want to put more things on my plate, but my resolve, my boundary with myself that I'm working on for this quarter is looking at all the places where I am not going to say yes to something and where I'm going to allow the team member to do it, fall on their booty and mess it up, learn, even though I know I could do it quicker. I am
Right.
going to let the other person take that on, because how can we expect our team members to support us if we're not giving them the opportunity to make mistakes and to grow
It's so true. It's
themselves?
like you give, you delegate and then you give it back. Like,
Yes.
like I'll
Yes.
just do that. No, no, no.
Right. So the boundary with yourself is, I'm not doing that. So the story I was
Right.
telling you, I was on my bike ride, and my bike rides are crucial for my mindset, my focus throughout the day. It's like my meditation every morning, and it's like an hour and a half bike ride. And I'm on the
Sounds
bike
so
and
nice.
I know it's really nice. And I go by the ocean and I have beautiful music. So anyway, this is like my salvation. Like if I start my day this way, I'm good. And I know
Yeah.
I need it to be a good CEO. And on that bike ride, I had four people text me, my cleaning crew. Oh, we had our 11 a.m. cancel. Can we come at 11 instead of 2? Except I'd planned my whole day around them coming at 2, right? Then it's somebody that I ordered a product from. I can't figure out how to ship it. So basically, like, help me figure out how to ship this thing you ordered from me. And it was all these little, like, requests. And they were all, especially the cleaning crew, we need to know because we need, it's 10:30, and are we going to lose 3 hours because you can't reschedule us on our timeline? And I could feel the temptation to pull my
Yes.
bike
I can
over,
only imagine. Yes.
right? And stop my whole and very important morning routine to make other people's non-emergencies my emergency. And I had to set the boundary with myself. I know I can take this stress on for them, but it doesn't mean I should, because
Okay, wait, 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 wait,
yeah,
wait. This is just really good because I know as women, this is what we do. We take
yes,
other people's non-emergency and make it our emergency that we have to solve right now. And that's why, Lisa, so many entrepreneurs are reactive instead of proactive because we allow that to seep into our day and then we're like, I didn't get anything done. This is brilliant. Keep talking. I just really want someone to hear this right now, that someone else's need to get a hold of you right away. People are smart though too. I'm so curious. Did they figure it out?
of course they did. I did not respond to my cleaning crew. It's not my fault or my business that your 11 a.m. canceled. I have to get off my bike, straight into the shower, and on calls. I do not have to, and somebody might think, well, it doesn't take that much to just text them back, but it does, because you take one of those little tiny energy drains of 10 seconds where I have to figure this out and text them back and rearrange my whole day so she can come at 11. And that's one energy drain, but then you do 25 of those in a day, and then you wonder
Yeah.
why you didn't get anything done that you needed to, and why you're so burned out and exhausted. And you're like, what the heck? I didn't even get anything done. But you did. You did a ton of carrying other people's stress for them instead of letting them figure it out. And every single person who messaged me and was trying to get my response or get me to figure stuff out, like, if I paid you for a product, it's your job to figure out how to ship it to me, not mine,
Right. Right.
right? Guess what? She wrote me 2 hours later and said, I figured it out, thanks. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for not, and thank you to myself for not falling into that trap. It
Right.
is,
Yeah.
we tend to focus on the macro of the things that are draining us, and and what I want to reflect back to everybody listening, and yeah, to everybody, is where we really lose the energy, where we really start building into burnout, is in the tiny little micro places that we drain energy, because those add up to like a waterfall of energy
Yeah.
leakage.
Yeah, it's not the macro, right? It's not the big things that
No.
we're looking to pursue each day. It's all the little things. And, I really appreciate that you say, you know what, that 10 seconds, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Just answer it. That email you just got or that Instagram message you just got. But I'm telling you, and this is something that I struggle with, and my husband and I are talking about all the time, it's that false sense of urgency. I think with all the platforms out there, and because we are running businesses, we put on us the need to try to respond to everyone right away. But that is one of the most, that's one, I think, self-sabotaging things that you can do in your business, is to allow that to happen. Because you're right, it's all the little things. It's the 25 little 10 seconds that add up to the end of the day where you feel completely drained.
Exactly. And it's hardly ever really 10 seconds if you think about it, because
Right,
there's
right.
even there's even a drainage that happens when we don't respond, and then we spend an hour feeling bad that we didn't respond. That's
Hmm.
also a type of energy. So when I talk about boundaries with yourself, I'm talking about if you notice yourself starting to feel guilty that you made them figure something out, tell yourself, I'm stop it. I'm not going to feel
Yeah, you just
guilty.
empowered them to make their own decisions. Like, that's a good thing.
Right. You have to, if
Yeah.
you're training people to over rely on you, then it's your responsibility to train them that they cannot over rely on you anymore.
Yeah. And again, that will help. And you always hear that, how you do one thing, it's how you do everything. So if that's how you're running your life, that's how clients are also going to react to you.
Oh, yeah.
That constant need and texting you at all hours of the night and getting you to respond. So you're really giving other people, like, empowering them to make decisions and to take ownership of things in their life. And I love that. Like, you bought a product and they wanted to know how to ship it. Like, that is not my responsibility. Thank you.
Right. But see, I feel the part of me that I'm so good at figuring things out and
Hmm.
usually better at it than most people around me that I'm like, let me get in there. I'm like,
Of
wait,
course, we want to fix
no,
it.
no.
Yeah.
Even if it takes her longer to ship it to me, I'd rather her figure it out and me focus on things that are more important in my day and just
Hmm.
get it 2 days later. Right.
Right. Hey, Lisa, how does this capacity issue affect us monetarily as entrepreneurs?
Oh, huge, huge.
Tell me
So,
how.
so I told you this when we were talking prior to recording that I was working with a couple who yesterday who were telling me, we just can't seem to make any more money than we're making right now in our business. And it's getting really urgent. Like we really need to up our revenue. And I said, okay, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, we're so good at so many things. We have 30 years of experience. And essentially, they just couldn't pick a focused niche to head down in terms of the path. And we all
Hmm.
know, our customers have like what they think they need, and that's what they're going to buy from you. And then once they get in the door, now they've discovered this whole other world of deeper things that they need to work on as well. But
Tell
they
them what
don't
they want, give them what they need, right? Yes.
exactly. And they had this, and I said this to them with a lot of love. I said, your ego is in the way because you
Hmm.
know how deep your work is and how many years of experience you have, and you're trying to show all of that right up front. And that's not what your
Yeah.
client needs from you. That's overwhelming. It's too much for them. And they're just like, I just want for my stomach to not hurt when I eat, right?
Oh,
They don't
yeah.
know that that is connected to like emotional things that you'll work on them in the program they sign up for. But
Right.
you have to pick a niche, and they were so resistant to it because they're like, that's insulting to our 30 years of experience. And I said, that's your ego. Like you
Yeah.
can't walk into a room with,
Wait. Okay.
yeah,
Again, like, this is a main issue with entrepreneurs that I work with, that you work with. It's like, but wait, I can do so many other things, right? And I know you're smart and you're talented and you're multi-passionate and you can, but if you market too many things, no one knows what you really do, And so
exactly.
I feel like I'm always like, you guys, you got to niche it down. But you're right. Like, they feel like it's insulting their 30 years, but in fact, people are confused, and a confused mind will always say no.
Right. I don't care if you've been doing this for 30 years. I care if you can solve my problem, period.
Yes,
And
yes,
and then the
right.
deeper blind spot around this is, why do you feel like you are not worthy enough that you have to prove all of your experience the first time someone experiences you, or the first touch
Mm,
point? You don't
mm.
need to do that. You can own your worthiness just through how you show up, just through your boundaries. You don't have to prove your expertise, because when you get into that proving energy, you are disempowered and people feel it, and it's
Yes.
icky, and like people don't want to work with you. So
Yeah.
these things impact the amount of money you can make, because if you're burned out and exhausted because you don't have good boundaries, of course it's going to reflect on your revenue, because you can't show up to market, you can't show up visibly on social media or whatever it is that you market, because you're tired all the time, you're having trouble coming up with creative ideas for how to market yourself. if you are not able to pick a very particular niche to, or like what's the door through which people
The
come in,
door opener. Yes.
if you can't pick that, then of course your revenue is going to suffer because you're trying to be everything to everybody. And you're not like, I always reference to like a lighthouse cutting through the fog, right? You're a
Hmm.
lighthouse cutting through the fog when you have a very specific focus. Because I can go, I'm your client because that's the problem I need to solve. But if you're talking
Yes.
about all these problems that you can solve for me, I'm like, I don't even, you're not for me. I need the person who only focuses on the thing that I want to solve right now. So, all of these little ways that we don't own the value of what we do, that this can affect how we price ourselves, right? If I don't believe I'm worthy or I'm not standing
Yeah.
in my value without proving myself, I'm going to negotiate lower prices, undercharge. And then I'm in the situation my client was in where she was double working for half the amount of money. So, all of these capacity blind spots impact our money making. And that's why I always say it's a fabric, it's interwoven. All of these things impact each other.
Yes, it's so good, Lisa. So much of what we teach entrepreneurs over here on this side is really about how to show up powerfully, how to niche down from generalist to specialist and being visible. But you also say sometimes if you're visible, it's really good to stop being visible for a while. And then how do you get back? I just talk to me about that. So if you're someone who is high achieving and you put yourself out there all the time, when do you decide to not do that? And when do you decide to get back into being visible? Just talk to me about like your idea around that.
Yeah, well, there's many layers to this. But for me, for example, my personal experience is as I have grown, there are more and more people watching me, paying attention to what I do. So, for example, in the beginning of my business, I used to put my location about where I was until I had a stalker person come like track me down at a conference and then start yelling things at me who I had never met, worked with, nothing.
Wow.
And when that happened, I thought, I really need to reconsider how I'm
Where I
showing.
put myself. Yeah.
Right. And I think also there's a mistake a lot of people make where they think authenticity means just like saying everything that they're going through. And I think that our visibility is more about what would my client benefit hearing from me versus how can I use my social media to just like vomit every
Throw
feeling I'm
up on people. Oh my gosh, Lisa, I feel like I'm just talking to myself. Like this is like because I should like there's such a big difference between authenticity and transparency.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
Those are different things. And being authentic does not mean that you're vomiting your life on people every day. And it's
exactly.
always, that WIFM, what's in it for the person who is, your fan, your follower, your client. Like not everyone cares what you ate for breakfast. Sorry.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
don't. And not everybody cares about, like the doubts you're experiencing about whatever if it has nothing to do with why they're following you, right? So I think
Hmm.
we have to develop greater discernment around how we want to show up. And then there's also this idea that a lot of clients have when they come to work with me, which is that visibility only looks a certain way. So I have a client who is like super like earth goddess and like doesn't like likes to be barefoot at her retreats and like wears these flowy dresses and it's her personality, it's who she is.
Sure.
And she's like, I haven't been able to go to my next level of revenue because I have this belief that in order to be a seven-figure business owner, that I have to be like posing for pictures in a cafe in Paris and wear red bottom shoes. And I was like, what? Like who told you
Yeah.
that?
What?
And so she was subconsciously sabotaging her growth because she thought she had to become something that she didn't
Hmm.
in order to get to seven figures. So that's another way
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
that, that the
That
visibility.
reminds me of like Danielle Laporte, um,
Yeah,
Gabby Bernstein, Mel Robbins, yeah,
right,
Glennon Doyle. I mean, I
right.
think that we often feel like, well, this is what success looks like. This is what a successful woman
Yeah.
looks like.
And that's not
But
true. It's
that's actually the furthest from the truth because a successful woman is going to be the most authentic version of you.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like it's something we have to keep saying to people because I think when you only see like a certain archetype, you have to
Yeah.
first of all, there are different archetypes, but you're just for some reason only being directed by the algorithm to those archetypes. So for example, when I was trying to build more body positivity for myself, I had to unfollow all like the size zero supermodels because there's nothing wrong with it. Like if you're naturally a size zero, like go you like you're
You
beautiful.
go. Yeah.
But that was never me. And so I had to start following like more mid-size plus size models to kind of change my mindset around what normal was. And it was very
Yeah.
healing for me. So just remember that just because you can't readily see the kind of visibility you want doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and go looking for it. Ask people, do you know somebody who's like this and has a seven-figure?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's another thing around visibility that I notice people struggle with a lot, is that they feel, just yesterday I had a client who was like, I hate Instagram. She has a very prominent family, so there's some security concerns around her being so public. And I was like, okay, but is your client on Instagram? Like, where do you get most of your clients? She's like, LinkedIn. And I'm like, then why are you on Instagram? She's like,
Right.
well, because everybody else is like showing up and doing lives on there. I'm like, but you've literally never gotten a single client from Instagram, and it's a security concern for you. So just go to LinkedIn. She felt better about security wise. I'm like, why are you putting any energy into Facebook and Instagram? Your
Right.
visibility can solely exist on LinkedIn right now.
That
That
is right. You don't have to be everywhere. You do not. Like, go where your ideal client lives. If they're not on TikTok, don't be TikToking. If they're not on Instagram, like go where they are. But I will say the pressure can be very real. I know, like right now, I'm like, guys, we got to be on TikTok. Everyone's on TikTok. We should be on TikTok. And it's like, is your client on TikTok? Like, I'm literally talking to myself like I would my clients, because you really do still, you start to feel the pressure of, well, I should be there too. And let's not shut on ourselves. Like, let's really focus on, like, where does my person live and how can I best serve them on what platform? So it's,
exactly.
it's a good conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of a general answer to your question. There's so many more like nuances to that, but I think in terms of not showing up and showing up, it's being discerning about where can I serve best. And I don't have to be one of these people that like shares everything about their lives. You can still be a very private person, because your purpose is like, your business is not necessarily about you. Even if you're a personal brand, it's still a personal brand. It's not really you, right? It's a personal
Right. It's a brand.
brand.
Yeah.
Allowed to keep some things to yourself. You don't have to share everything if you don't feel comfortable with it. The whole reason you're there is not to like make it about you. It's to provide the service that your clients are looking for to them and support them. So you don't have to share about your relationships. You don't have to, tell about every aspect of your day, or like you said, post your breakfast for that morning if you don't want to.
Yeah. When you're talking about that, there's someone that comes to mind who has done a very, very exceptional job at building a personal brand and still keeping her life private, and that is Miss Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I know you are an Oprah fan. Yes. And it really is like that really came to mind. Like, you think that you know her, but she shares very little of her personal life
Absolutely.
on her platforms. And when she does, she shares very poignant things. And you had a chance to meet her. Tell me what that was like.
It was wonderful. I am under confidentiality, so I can't talk too much about her, but it was an amazing experience. And I will say that, like, she really is who she is. Like,
Yeah.
there was no difference between on camera versus in person. And whenever I see her in those backstage videos of her greeting people and talking, that's how she is. She's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
And that, I think, is what makes a really great authentic leader, is someone who is congruent, and what you see is what you get. But that doesn't mean, right, that again, you're going to see all the skeletons in the closet at the same time. And I think Oprah's done a really beautiful job at letting people in so people can see themselves in her and yet still really keep her life quite private. So that would
Absolutely.
be amazing. She's on the bucket list to meet, so that's awesome. So to wrap it up, Lisa, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much. I think a capacity for women and for men is something that no matter where you are, whether you're a mom, you're a business owner, it's something that we all struggle with, and it's, I think, different capacities at different times in our lives. And so I'm so interested to know, what does inspired living mean to you?
Oh my gosh. I think inspired living means that you have the capacity to do all the things that you love to do in the way you want to do them, that you are running your in the way that feels most fulfilling and aligned for you. And I do think that you deserve to have a business where you are constantly inspired, and that you feel like you're growing,
Yes.
being challenged, and solving new problems, and that can be an exciting thing. I think that's what inspired living is.
I couldn't agree more. Lisa, if someone wants to connect with you and learn more about how you can support them in their business, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can go straight to my website. It's Lisa Fabrega, Fabrega.com. And you can even, if you get your name and email address in the little opt-in box, you can get a video with 3 really good questions that I bet nobody has ever asked you before that are going to give you more insight into where your capacity blind spots might be.
Ooh, so good. I'm going to have to go answer those questions. All right, Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. And make sure to go check out her website. Go answer those 3 questions because sometimes we don't realize what is keeping us, right? It's like we know there's something, but what is it? And often it is a capacity issue. And so, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your incredible insight on today's show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Carrie Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv/podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.